And we're back yet again in another dead week in the off season, but we figured we'd hop on for another episode of the Sports Nerds. Draft is coming up in what, 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks from
I
now?
believe it is, yeah,
2 weeks
weeks.
tomorrow. We're recording this on a Wednesday, so I think it's 2 weeks from now. So when this episode goes live, but yeah, we figured we'd hop on, just kind of give our thoughts and some of our predictions for the draft. There hasn't been a whole lot of NFL news, so this is kind of be a shorter episode. But before we get into like mock drafts and just news around the league, Braden, how are you doing?
I'm chilling, man. Got to see the end of the college basketball season. Was rooting for Houston, but you kind of can't choke like that if you want to win basketball games. But otherwise, yeah, just kind of sitting, waiting for anything to talk about, really.
Yeah. Listen, I don't condone gambling. I think gambling is a dangerous thing, but I had Houston halftime for the money line, so I was a very happy man
That
when
man,
when Florida came out and they ended up when Houston choked on that last possession. Oh man, I was ear to ear with the smile, dude. I was so happy. But yeah,
I,
this
I would I would not want to be Emmanuel Sharp on campus this week.
oh
I'll tell you
man.
what.
Um we actually had good Final Four games. Even I know we're not like 5-5 with Brock and Chase. I know they do their own thing, but the game on Saturday with Duke and Houston was a really good one. Even the Florida Auburn, no, I had Florida Auburn, right? Yeah,
Yeah, I believe so. Florida,
I
Auburn, and then Duke,
Houston.
Houston.
Those were both good games. I know it was kind of a slower start to the tournament, with not a whole lot of upsets, not a whole lot of like great games. But I think the end, like, made this tournament that much better. I know it's one seeds across the board that made it, but man, the quality of games for college basketball have gotten so much better over the last few years. I don't know if you feel the same way, but that's just how I feel.
Yeah, I do feel like with the whole landscape of college sports in general changing, it definitely has killed the Cinderella aspect of like early in the tournament. But at the end of the day, once you weed out all of the other competition, you're getting the best teams in basketball, and that
Right.
really is the point of the tournament. So, better basketball product, but the art of making a bracket certainly is starting to go away, I fear.
You would think though it's probably going to be easier in the next few years if all these powerhouses just keep winning and make deep runs in the tournament. I mean, the one team that got knocked out early was, I guess, St. John's, but even then they
Well,
lost to a deep.
Clemson went round one,
Yeah, but I'm talking
but
mainly like top four seeds. Like it was really just St. John's that ended up losing in the second round to a good Arkansas team that almost made a
then
deep run.
oh,
But
Iowa State.
yeah, I mean, I didn't want to have to.
Yeah.
I didn't want
I'll say it for
to.
you. It's all right.
Okay.
It's
Um,
all right. I know.
but
Most hyped up season in history ends up losing the second round.
hey, that's something Iowa and Iowa State fans can shake their hands on.
God bless the state of Iowa.
The 2021 Iowa team where Garza wins National Player of the Year and gets bounced by Oregon. So that was a great time. That was already 4 years ago, which is crazy to say out loud. But anywho, this is not a college basketball podcast as much as I would love it to be. This is an NFL podcast, and we're gonna try to make an episode out of this. Again, hasn't been a whole lot of news, but one of
We
the
can get
bigger
you guys
stories.
30 minutes. I'm going to be happy about
Right, we're just gonna try to stretch this out as long as we can without being boring. But one of the bigger storylines that's come out over the last week was the Shador Sanders Pro Day and the videos that have come out. I guess the big issue is that the videos of him like palming or patting the ball before he's thrown it. Some players are saying it's easy to read, it's easier to make interceptions off of it. Some are saying that it doesn't matter. Braden, where are you kind of at on the spectrum with this?
it. Listen, a quarterback is about, on average, about 6'1", 6'2", standing behind a bunch of 6'6", 300+ pound offensive linemen that also have another layer of 6'5", 300-pound defensive linemen, and then you have linebackers and safeties who are the guys that you could maybe start to say those are the guys that can maybe make a play on the ball, other than the occasional back down. A One of those
Mm-hmm.
that many layers deep,
Right.
you're not seeing that.
No.
You're just not. I think it was Darius Slayton on Twitter
Yep.
said, "I can't see when my quarterback's throwing the ball. What? How are you able to see that?"
Right.
Like I I really think it's just a guy that's already made it just trying to hate, which is it's not something you'd like to see as a fan of the sport, but feels like something we are starting to see a lot more of, really, no matter what sport you're talking about.
I think it would be different if this was a quarterback that was like super tall, so it's easier for DBs to see it back there. Like if Shador Sanders was 6'7" or 6'6", kind of like how Brock Osweiler was coming out of college, just this super tall quarterback, and maybe they could see that, but even then, I don't think it makes that much of a difference. DBs can say that that's a tendency that quarterbacks are getting ready to throw the ball. It it can't make that much of a difference. I'm going to be honest, because he was still really effective in college. It's not like he threw for a bunch of interceptions. I think he only had 5 interceptions last year. I'm gonna double check my.
I don't know. DBs also dance when a quarterback overthrows their target by like 30
Right,
yards, so I'm not really super worried about what they post about online.
right. His 2 years at Colorado, he had 13 combined interceptions, so it averages 6.5 per year. I mean, that's not a lot. And this is coming from someone that's an Iowa fan. I see a lot of turnovers coming from the quarterback position. So, like, 13 in 2 years is nothing compared to some of these other quarterbacks that are coming out. I don't think it's a big deal. I don't think scouts think it's a huge deal. I think scouts kind of know what they're getting with Shador. He's kind of an older prospect, doesn't really rely on his like athleticism, but he makes up for it in just pure arm talent and accuracy. Um, if he was in last year's draft, I think he's a second round pick for sure. But the fact that he's in this draft, he could be taken as high as number 2, and I think he could fall all the way into the 20s. It's just that the variance in this draft is so wide that he could end up number 2 to the Browns, or again stay in that division and go maybe 21 to the Steelers. I don't know. What do you think on that?
Yeah, I agree. I pretty much with everything you said here. I think any other draft, like if he was in last year's draft, he is nowhere near the first round, I don't think. Most of the teams that needed a quarterback were early, and he wasn't going above all the guys that went in the top like 15. But yeah, I do think he has a pretty big range, as does most prospects, I think, in this class. But if a scout's going to be worried about an attribute of Shador, it's not the ball pat. It's, is he like an actual leader of a locker room, or what kind of character does he have off the field? Because I remember it was like towards the beginning of the season, there was a couple Colorado guys that decommitted that talked about how bad he was of a leader off the field. And Shador responded to that by saying, "I don't know who you are. You're probably some bum." Like that's not professional. That's
No.
I I feel weird using these kind of words talking about like NFL draft picks, because there's always arguments that people will make, but at the end of the day, that's not what leaders do. They
Right.
if somebody says you're not a leader, you brush them aside and prove why you are. You don't go and attack them for how good you think they are, or say I don't know you, lol, get wrecked. You
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the pat and the ball. To get back to the
Yeah.
topic at hand, I'm not worried
Yeah.
about it. I think he's going to be fine.
I'm not either. Actually, we're getting close enough to the draft that they actually have odds of where certain players are going to get selected by which teams. And the favorite right now to draft Shador Sanders is actually the New Orleans Saints, which is kind of crazy to think about, because I think if you had asked a month ago, I think it would have been easily the Browns or the Giants, but things have changed. So Saints are the favorite, followed by the Steelers, then the Giants, then the Browns, and then quite a ways behind in 5th is the Raiders at plus 900. I think any of those 4 teams would be great fits for Shador. I think the best though would be him going to Pittsburgh, just because Pittsburgh is like a stable organization, if that makes sense. The Saints, I think, are going to be in salary cap. I, their salary cap is so
They're not
messed
having a
up
good
that
time.
yeah, they're going to be. It's going to be rough to watch for Saints fans the next few years. The Giants, I would like a lot, but they just signed Russell Wilson. They just signed Jameis Winston. So it kind of feels like their quarterback room's full. If he goes to the Browns, I think he's going to be set up for failure. I really do. I don't think the roster's that talented. And they're paying all that money to Watson, so they're not able to use the money elsewhere. I just don't think that'd be a very good fit for Shedeur Sanders. Where do you think is the best fit for Shedeur?
Yeah, if I setting aside like where they're picking in the draft, I do think Pittsburgh would be the best situation. They have a good defense. They have weapons on offense. They're Mike Tomlin is about as steady Eddie as a coach goes. Outside of that, yeah, I mean maybe the Saints, but I mean as you go later in the draft, obviously you're gonna have better teams because that's kind of just how it works. But yeah, the Giants probably wouldn't be too bad because they wouldn't have to rush him in to start right away if they don't feel like he's ready for it.
Right.
He can learn behind like winning quarterbacks and Russell Wilson. But yeah, I don't know. It's
a weird draft.
Weird draft, weird time in the NFL,
right.
Really.
We're going to put the draft subject on hold at this point in time. We're going to get to our mock drafts a little bit later in this episode. But right now, we're late enough in the offseason and close enough to the regular season where they have like over-under lines for wins. It kind of just gives you a general idea of what the general public thinks of these teams and how good they're going to do. It's usually a pretty good indicator. Obviously, there's one-offs of teams that their win total set to super low and they exceed it, a.k.a. the Commanders last year. And there's times when the win total set super high and teams fail to meet those expectations. So me and Braden are going to give our one-word answer of over or under on these certain teams. I'm going to go through the list, and we're just going to live react to them now. Because Braden, have you been able to look at any of these?
I have an idea of some. I don't know what they all exactly are.
Yeah.
But yeah, they should be fun.
All right. Again, one word, over, under. Cleveland Browns, 4.5 wins.
Under.
I agree. I also agree with under.
That is a very low line, but the Browns are.
Yeah.
It
New York Jets.
Myles Garrett. It's Myles Garrett, Jerry Jeudy, and nothing. The Jets.
Yep. Jets are 5.5.
Ooh. Ugh. Over.
I think so too.
It's a tough division, but I think they can squeak out 6 wins in there somewhere. Even if they do like a Packers thing and don't win like barely any playoff game or not playoff
division.
Games. Yeah, division games. I think they can manage 6 wins somewhere.
All right. Tampa Bay. It's 9.5.
Over. That division sucks.
I'll say over as well, but that's pretty spot on. Because did they go 10-7 last year?
I could see them going 9-8. I don't know where they went last year. But
I think it was 10-7. Because I know they won their division because they hosted a playoff game. But yeah, I would say over as we speak right now.
I don't know if they got significantly better than last year, though.
But did they get that much worse, though, is the other flip side of that.
Do we know how Chris Godwin's going to come back?
That's true. Mike Evans is 1 year older.
They lost Liam Cohen?
Liam Cohen's a big loss. Their defense is always going to be the question with that team, whether or not they can get stops. And that's how it's always going to be because their offense has been good for what it feels like the last 10 years. They've always had a great offense. But Pittsburgh, 8.5.
Under. I think this is the year Mike Tomlin finally has to stare down the barrel of not going 500. Unless they can get a quarterback, I don't see Mason Rudolph getting them 9 wins.
There's 2 scenarios that could play out. If Rodgers signs, I think it's over. We're late enough in the offseason, though, that I don't know if it's a guarantee that he signs with the Steelers. And if they draft a quarterback, a.k.a. Shedeur, Dart, even if like Jalen Milroe sneaks into the first or second round, like it's an under though, because that team is just not ready for a rookie quarterback. but I would also agree with under as we speak. Braden, your favorite team, not. But how about the Seattle Seahawks? 8.5 wins.
Under. I know I'm a hater, but that offensive line
Yeah,
and Sam Darnold is not a good quarterback under pressure.
I would also agree under that O line. I don't hate the defense. I hate the O line and them getting rid of Metcalf and Lockett. It's going to be rough for Seattle this year. So I would also agree with under. How about the Chargers at 9.5?
I think over.
I think me and you have the same
Have we
exact
have we
predictions.
have we been going bar for
I
bar?
need to pick some against you in a couple of these. But yeah, I would
I
also
swear
agree.
I'm not looking at your thumbs up,
No,
thumbs down when I'm making. I'm just looking at nothing.
no, you're good. I would also agree with over though, because I think they're only going to add talent in the draft, and they're going to get that much better. Especially if they can get a receiver or tight end in the first round. I think it's definitely an over. Um, this is a tough one, but the New England Patriots, 8.5.
Whoa.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go under, but I would not be surprised if the over hits. I think this is like a 7. If I had to give you an exact number, I feel like I'd probably go 7 wins. I think this team is primed to make a jump. I just don't think it's going to be that high. Because, I mean, 9 wins, you're looking at like playoffs.
yeah.
They're
You're
not
looking at
going from
sneaking in the
4th
seventh
overall
seed.
pick to playoffs.
I hate that this line is 8.5 instead of 7.5. Because 7.5 it's the overall day for me. Because I think our team got that much better.
Yeah, I could buy 8, but
I'm gonna say under. I think there's too much variance with this team. Now if they get one of the blue chips in Carter or Hunter, sign me up for the over. I'll be on the Patriots bandwagon this year. I just don't see it yet. Just I'm not quite there. Braden, how about another division rival of yours? How about the LA Rams? It's set at 9.5.
Give me the over. I don't like it, but I think they are my favorite to win that division right now.
I'm super tempted to go under.
Trust
But
me,
that
I am too. I hate that team, but
yeah.
sometimes you got to face the music and dance.
I hate that I keep agreeing. I don't want us to agree on every single one because I think that's kind of lame. But I have to go over. I like Stafford and the receivers too much for me to not go over.
Maybe I'm
All
giving
right.
too much explanation before you gave your answer. Maybe I should just stay silent. You go first next time. I'm not. I'm gonna.
All right. Well, it's yours truly. It's 11.5, and it's the easiest one all day. It's over.
Yeah.
This team won 15 games with a plumber at left tackle. I think if they are able to get a left tackle in the draft, good luck. That's all I'm going to say. You agree with the over on that?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll take the over.
All right. This one is super interesting. I'm kind of waiting to hear your thoughts. The Giants, 5.5.
Give me the over.
I was going to say, you can make an argument for either. I'm probably going to lean under for the sheer fact I just don't think they have enough talent on the offensive side of the ball quite yet. Now, if they get Hunter,
Yeah, they get
that
Travis
changes
Hunter,
things.
those quarterbacks.
That changes things.
They already got Malik Neighbors. Tyrone Tracy, I think, is really underrated as a running back. I'm not sold on the offensive line, and the defense.
I never will be.
Does something, I guess.
I'm going to lean
I still
under.
think there's potential.
I'm going to lean under. But again,
I'm
this
going to
is
stick
April.
with my over.
April 9th is as we're recording this. So we still have 4 months till. No, 5 months till the regular season starts.
We finally disagreed on one. We did it.
Yeah, I'm going under. I don't trust that O-line at all. But Drew Lock was looking decent for him at the end of the year, so who knows? This is another interesting one. The Houston Texans is at 9.5.
Give me the under.
I'm going to hammer the over. I
Give me
think they
the
easily win this division.
I think they win this division, but I think they go 9-8.
Interesting. I know that they traded Tunsil, they lost Stephon Diggs, and they lost some other pieces on the offensive line. But it can't get much worse than it was last year. Am I wrong to think that?
I mean, I'm seeing a lot of improvement from every other team in that division, and I feel like the Texans are just taking steps back.
I get that, but I think we're going to see a CJ Stroud resurgence here. He had a sophomore slump. There's no denying that, but him, Mixon, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, when he gets back from injury, who knows how soon that'll be. And again, whatever they do in the draft in the first or second round, I think it's gonna be good. I think they would lean O-line and receiver, but who knows at this point. How about the New Orleans Saints at 6.5?
Under.
Gosh darn it. That division's so bad.
It's so bad for a reason. They can't all just magically overperform their line just because the division's bad.
6.5 is a lot, because did they go 6-11 last year?
I think they went 7-10.
I'm still gonna go under.
I think they won 7 games. I'm not sure. I might just be boofing out my beef right now, but I think they went. What am I even looking up right now? I don't know. I think they did.
I'm gonna go under.
You can hate me if I'm wrong. I don't care.
Staying in the NFC South, I like this team a lot. I think this team can make a huge jump. The Atlanta Falcons, 7.5.
I will go over.
I was gonna say I kind of told you which way I was leaning, but I think Penix. He didn't play amazing last year, but he showed enough that I think he could be a good quarterback in the NFL. And him, Bijan, they have Drake London. Who knows what they have in Kyle Pitts? It's going to be year 5 of Kyle Pitts coming up, and we still don't know how good of a player he is. But I still like that team a lot. So give me the over at 7.5. Denver Broncos at 9.5. This is interesting. What do you have for 9.5?
I'm gonna go under. I like this team, but we can't have 3 10-win teams in this division. I already have Chiefs over. I already have Chargers over.
Well, Chiefs over. I mean that's
see the NFC West or in the AFC West, where you have 3 10-win teams. I don't think so. Somebody's got to go under.
I think sophomore slump is a real thing. I think Bo Nix will experience some of that. That being said, they added so much on their defense that I think it's going to make their defense just that much more elite. And depending on what they do in the draft, like if they're able to get a running back or another receiver, just a weapon for Bo Nix, I think they're going to be good. I really like the over. Like you said, it's going to be tough to have that many 10-win teams in that division. But I just think it means the Raiders are going to be that bad, if I'm going to be quite honest.
I don't think the Raiders are going to be that bad. I don't think they're going to be like to give 10 wins to 3 teams in that division. They'd have to win like 5 games.
Which I don't know what I think their line's coming up, but I don't know. I think here's my thing is I think there's tiers in that division. You have the Chiefs. I don't mean to showboat, but they have the Chiefs in the top tier.
Yeah.
The Chargers and Broncos are in that tier, and then in a tier by themselves is the Raiders. The Raiders would have to do something incredible in the draft. Like they would have to get Genty and get like a superstar receiver that like just fits their team. But I just
go grab Higgins in the second round.
Maybe that's the answer, but I don't know. I like this Denver team a lot, and I have some Broncos buddies that have just been maybe it's been them talking about it too much that I just have started to pick up on it. But
I mean, you're not wrong. They have made a lot of improvements to that team. I simply cannot see there being 3-10 win teams in that division.
All right, we're
Given the competition they have to play, I
Yeah.
just don't see it.
All right, let's speed run through some of these because some of these aren't that.
Yeah, we promised one-word answers, and
Yeah, we're going to stick to the
more
one-word
than
answers.
two of these have been one word.
All right, Jacksonville Jags 7.5 over under.
Under.
I have over. Arizona Cardinals 8.5. Brock's team.
Under.
I'm bullish on the
Just
Cardinals.
barely.
I'm going to go over. Chicago Bears 8.5.
Over.
I'm also going to say over. Las Vegas Raiders 6.5.
Over.
I'm going under. Braden's team, San Francisco 49ers 10.5. Over under.
Under. What?
Under.
Are we gonna draft God? What are we? What?
I will say, it is plus odds to take the over. So the majority of the the public thinks it's going to be a 10, 7, 9, and 8 team. But it's crazy that line's high because
that's like a 2 seed. We went 6 and 11. I get we had injuries. We lost like the whole team.
It's true. All right, Tennessee Titans 5.5. Let's just keep this one quick.
Yeah, under.
Yeah. Carolina Panthers 6.5. I gotta go over. I've been on the Panthers bandwagon. I'm gonna stay on them. I mean, that's gonna be my frisky team in the playoffs potentially. We'll see. A team that everyone loves in this state, the Green Bay Packers 9.5.
Under.
I agree with the under. Miami Dolphins 8.5.
Under.
Under as well. Indianapolis Colts 7.5.
Over.
I'm going under just because I think Richardson's gonna be their quarterback still. Dallas Cowboys 7.5. Over. Minnesota Vikings 8.5. All right, I have the under. Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles 11.5. And I hate it so much that I have to go the over. Buffalo Bills 11.5. I agree. Cincinnati Bengals 9.5. Yep, me and Braden both have the over or the under. Excuse me. Detroit Lions 10.5. I think so. Baltimore Ravens 11.5.
This episode just turned into absolute Duke for anyone listening to this.
Yeah, I apologize.
For the non-video watchers,
I should
10
be.
minutes have been.
Yeah, that's true. Me and Braden I have the under. Braden has the over. Washington Commanders 9.5. I'm going the over. Yeah, so we have the majority of our picks are the same, but we have some differences. I'm more bullish on teams than Braden, and Braden's more bullish on teams than me. But now it's time to get into the actual part of this episode. Reacting to our mock drafts, mock draft 4.0 for me and Braden. Braden, do you want to present the top 10 of your mock draft?
I sure can. So I think my top 4 are the same as they were last week. Cam Ward, I think, has pretty much solidified himself as the number 1 overall pick. This has been known for probably about like a month now. They need a quarterback. Cam Ward's the best one available. We can move on. Abdul Carter to the Browns. I mean, what better? The only thing better than one freak off the edge is a second one. And, I mean, if you can't score points, make sure the other team can't score points either. Number 3, Travis Hunter going to the Giants. They need corner and they need receiver. Why not get both? Do I think he can play both consistently at the level that he did in college at the NFL level? I don't know, but wherever you put him, I think he's going to be a stud, and that really there's no debate at this point about that. Number 4, Armand Membu going to the Patriots. Got to protect Drake May. I think Armand Membu has a very good case, if not being the best offensive lineman in this draft. Whether you put him at guard or tackle, he can definitely stick at right tackle, but would not hate seeing him go in the guard. Number 5. Hey, remember last week when I said, hey, this is Mason Graham no matter what? I still think Mason Graham probably is going to the Jaguars, but at a certain point, you got to switch it up. What if they don't? And I think the answer to what if is going Will Campbell. Like you said, there's some issues with his arm length. Again, you can put him at tackle and he'd be good. You can put him at guard and he'd be elite. You got to help the best way to improve a team is in the trenches, I believe. So that's how you do it. If you don't go Mason Graham, you go the next best thing in the trenches, and that was Will Campbell. Number 6, Ashton Jeanty to the Raiders. Kind of just too perfect of a fit to not be Ashton Jeanty. You can't do Sincere McCormick and whatever plumber you pick up
Amir
off the
Abdullah.
street. Yeah. Amir Abdullah in the year's Lord 2025. Yeesh. And then number 7, I think this might be the highest I've had Will Johnson in a mock draft. Usually I feel like this is like either a Tyler Warren or an offensive lineman, or I think maybe I had like Jalen Walker or something last week. I'm not entirely sure who I had there. But I do believe Will Johnson can be a heck of a corner for him. And really we Sauce Gardner, I'm not too confident who's really at corner for him. So, again, we don't know for sure if they're going to be able to score a lot of points, but you might as well stop the other team from doing so. And then number 8. Again, this is probably one of the first times I've had this not be either Mykel Williams, Jalen Walker, or Shamar Stewart. And that's just because the last remaining blue chip prospect on the board happened to fall to number 8, something that I do not think is actually going to happen again, but this is not real life. This is simply a mock draft.
No one thought Penix was going 9 last year either.
That's very true. Mason Graham, an absolute wrecker of the run game, something that the Panthers desperately need, especially after failing to get Milton Williams in the offseason. I think he would be a really good fit on that Carolina defense. Number 9, the odds-on favorite to get Shedeur Sanders. I have him falling down to number 9. Derek Carr did something last year for sure. Whether you start Shedeur Sanders next year, put him in that hellfire, or you let Derek Carr go out there again and you just have Shedeur Sanders learn the offense a bit. Either way, I think could work out for him. We had the whole thing about the whole patting the ball thing. I don't think that's a big deal. Is a very accurate quarterback. I've been kind of happy with my right-handed Tua comparison. I think he's very accurate. We don't know for sure about the arm strength at the next level, but I think he's going to be okay. And then number 10, very heavily inspired by your previous mock drafts with Omarion Hampton going to the Bears. I have the exact same thing. We saw what Ben Johnson can do with 2 really good running backs in Detroit, and DeAndre Swift's pretty good, but I think Omarion Hampton is better. If you believe that Omarion Hampton is that much better than any of the other running backs that are projected to go in the second round, then I think you pull the trigger. You get your 5th-year option, you have him for 5 years, and pretty much the entirety of a running back's prime. And I think he's going to work out pretty well for him.
I like your first 10 picks. I see that I rubbed off on you with the Omarion Hampton pick, and I like that. I think it reminds me so much of the Bijan Jahmyr Gibbs draft. where everyone knew Bijan was going super high. No one knew Jameer was going to fly up the boards like he did, and Jameer ended up going 12th to the Lions when it looked like Jameer was
12, yeah.
when Jameer was going to look like as a back end of the first round, maybe even potentially second round. I think Hampton's got that. But yeah, I like your mock draft a lot. We're going to transition into my top 10. We're going to alternate with our picks. So that was Braden's top 10. I like it a lot. Here is my top 10. I'm not going to spend too much time on like the top 5 because I feel like it's pretty chalk. But Ward, Titans need a quarterback, so I think Cam's the best player in the draft or the best quarterback in the draft. Hunter, Browns just need talent, and Travis is going to be able to sell tickets, put butts in seats, and he's just a really good player. Carter to the Giants. Giants don't end up getting Travis Hunter, so they take the next best blue chip prospect, which is Abdul Carter, which just makes that D-line that much better for the Giants. Will Campbell to the Patriots. I was making fun of him for his short arms, but at the end of the day, he's going to be a really good offensive lineman. It would surprise me if he's not like a future Pro Bowl level player in the next few years. I think he's that good, whether it's tackle or guard, but he's going to be really good. Mason Graham, he's been projected at number 5. I think I've had him in 3 mock drafts going 5. We're just going to have it because Mason Graham, the Jags like drafting D-line early. They have Trayvon Walker. They have Josh Hines Allen. I almost messed that up. And then they now add Mason Graham. They like their defensive lineman, and so they take the best one that's on the board. You kind of inspired me with this Genty pick like almost a month ago, but it just makes more sense the day as we get closer. Raiders just need playmakers. Genty's one of the best in the draft. Jets, I'm taking an offensive lineman. This could be a quarterback here. I just think they're going to give Fields one shot to see if he's worth anything. And what better way to like give him a best shot than giving him arguably the best offensive lineman in the draft in Membu. So yeah, Membu to the Jets. Jalen Walker to the Panthers. They don't really need offense. They need defense so bad. I think I've had a defensive player mocked in all but like one of my mock drafts to them at number 8. They just need talent on that side of the ball. Will Johnson to the Saints. I've had this pick a lot. Traded Marshawn Lattimore to the Commanders. They just need secondary help. They need talent on the roster, but Will Johnson, like before the start of last year, was a no doubt top 10 pick. He kind of had a regression last year. There's some concerns with him, but he's still a really good player. And so Johnson to the Saints at 10. And you kind of sold me on this pick to the Bears. Kelvin Banks. Listen, I know the Bears made some trades in the offseason for offensive linemen and Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson. Thuney's 33, though. I don't know how long he's going to play. How sold are you on Braxton Jones as your left tackle of the future? How sold are you on Darnell Wright as your right tackle of the future? I don't know. I think this is an insurance pick because you got to make sure Caleb has like the best opportunity to succeed. And Kelvin Banks is one of the better offensive linemen that's left on the board. So that's my first 10 picks in the mock draft. Braden, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, right away, Shadur Sanders falling out of the top 10 is interesting.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of where else he would go if he's in the top 20.
We'll see. We'll see when we get to my second half.
I'm just trying to have an idea of where he's going to go before I end up seeing it, I guess. But yeah, I don't.
No thoughts on that?
Otherwise, yeah. I think
we have very similar top 10s, so we don't need to spend that much time on it.
Yeah, and whoever you have in the top 10, I probably have somewhere going 11 through 20.
Right. Same here. But
And,
that was
I mean, a lot of after like the top 5, 6 picks, really anything through the end of the first round are pretty interchangeable, I feel like.
right. I agree with that. That was my first 10 picks. We're now going to Braden's second 10 picks. Braden, the floor is yours.
Yep. Number 11. Now, is this me finally getting an opportunity to draft for the Niners and picking an absolute demon in Jalen Walker? Maybe. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. That is not for you to decide. That is for me to know and for you to never find out. What I will say, Jalen Walker is very good. Whether he's coming off the edge or playing off ball in sort of like a rookie Micah Parsons sort of way, really is up for, God, why am I forgetting his name? Robert Saleh. That's up for him to decide.
Big
And I
Bob
think
Saleh.
anywhere he's going to play, I think he's going to be really good, and I'm going to really like watching him. Number 12, old Matthew Golden, staying in the state of Texas, going to the Cowboys. Lining up next to CeeDee Lamb, I think he's going to be very, very good there. I did not think he was going to do as good in the combine as he did. I don't think anybody did, but he shot up draft boards like a rocket, and for good reason. He is very technically sound as a receiver. I think very easily could be the first receiver off the board, and if you're not counting Travis Hunter, I think he is the first receiver off my board. You could obviously make arguments for like Ted McMillan, or yeah, that is his name, Ted McMillan. Like an Emeka Ibuka, Luther Burden. A lot of these guys you could make arguments for being the number one receiver off the board. But I think it just makes too much sense to keep the Texas guy in Texas. Cowboys, I think, need a receiver alongside CD, and this is just the perfect pairing for me. Number 13, Kelvin Banks, going to the Dolphins. I don't know if he's going to end up sticking at tackle or going to guard, but I do know that Tua needs to stay upright, and Teron Armstead retired. So that offensive line right now is like Patrick Paul, Liam Eichenberg, and hopes and dreams. So hopefully Kelvin Banks can help that. I think he will be able to do that pretty well. Number 14, Tyler Warren going to the Colts. Look at that. Chris Ballard going with his RAS Demons. Math bomb over on Twitter. Absolute stud. Tyler Warren, what is he? 6'5", 260 pounds. Freak of an athlete, can block like the best of them, and is just an absolute just demon, catching the ball, making plays for that Penn State offense. Just a stud. I think he's going to be... If Anthony Richardson can't hit Tyler Warren, he's not going to be a quarterback at the next level. This is just the best way to prove it for him. And then number 15, old Terry Fontenot, absolutely refusing to pick edge for God knows how long. Listen, this is my mock draft. I make the rules here. He's picking edge, and he's going to like it. Keeping Michael Williams in the state of Georgia. A guy that could easily go in the top 10. I have him falling here maybe a little bit. Going to the Falcons, who desperately need it, as I've said probably 3 times in the last 2 minutes. But man, he's a good player, and wherever he goes, they're getting a stud. Number 16, when I tell you I struggled with who to pick here, I think I had my mock draft to Dawson at about 4:30, 5 o'clock yesterday. At 10:45 p.m., I could not go to sleep because I simply could not make this decision. And last second, I said, hey, give me Josh Simmons, because I think he, coming off of an injury, I think he's been making really good progress. Coming off of that, looks like he's going to be ready. You keep shaking your head no. What seems to be the problem here?
That's the Chief right there. That's not a Cardinal. He's gonna slide to 31.
I don't see
Or
it.
so I wish. So I wish, because I'd like Patrick Mahomes to also stay upright this year.
Which I get. Josh Simmons is very good. I think a lot of the offensive tackles in this class might be better suited at guard. If you're talking actual tackles, I think Josh Simmons has the potential to be the best one out of this class. I could see it, man. I just could see it. And unfortunately, it's not going to be with the Chiefs in this. I think pairing up Paris Johnson with Josh Simmons is going to make for a tackle duo in Arizona to keep whoever ends up being their quarterback long-term upright for years to come. Whether they fix that inside or not, who's to say? But most of the pressure comes from the outside, blocking those edges on the modern day. Josh Simmons can do that with the best of them. Speaking of edges, Bengals boy, do they need defense. This is kind of just a BPA at defense pick for me, and right now it is Shamar Stewart. I think I had him going as high as like 7 previously. Just a stud. He could go really anywhere between, again, like I've been saying, about 7 to back end of the first round. Just an absolute boomer bust. Didn't have a ton of production at Texas A&M, but the traits are there that teams seem to like, and I like him. So I'm making that pick. I think he's going to, whether they keep Trey Hendrickson or not, I think he's going to make a big impact on that defensive line. Who knows how good Miles Murphy really is going to end up being? We're starting to hit that point to where we're starting to say that pick's not really turned out how we liked it. So whether you like him or not, I think you could even move Shamar Stewart into defensive tackle. I think he was like 290 pounds at Texas A&M. Ended up slimming down to about 260 something at the combine. But yeah, he's just a ball player, really. And then number 18, again with these boomer bust guys, there are people that have Tet McMillan going in the top 5. There are people that have Tet McMillan going in the second round. It just depends on who you ask. And this is kind of just to split the difference for me. I have the Seahawks going with them at 18. Now, I know what you're thinking. That offensive line, god awful. And I agree. It sucks. You need to be able to improve that offensive line. But you look at who's available right now. It's not great right now. Calvin Banks is off the board. Armand Membu, Will Campbell probably aren't going to make it to 18 no matter what. You think maybe like a Tyler Booker, but that boy John Schneider hates guards more than he hates really anything. So I know I went on the whole thing about, hey, this is my mock draft. I make the rules around here, but I just don't see the guy that went on the record to say that guards are the most overdrafted, overpaid position in football going out and drafting a guard in the first round. I just don't see it. So next best thing, you kind of have 2 slot receivers right now in JSN and Cooper Kupp. So get yourself a big X guy. Just go up and get the football. And I think he's gonna be able to do that really wherever he goes. Hopefully it's not Seattle, because I don't like Seattle. So I would like for them to not have good things. Number 19, Jahad Campbell to the Bucs. This has been a fit that I've liked for a while. I think Jahad Campbell is pretty clearly the best true off-ball linebacker in the class. You can argue whether or not Jalen Walker's an edge or not. I think he probably is more of an edge at the professional level. He can play off the ball, but Jahad Campbell, again, he's kind of like the inverse of Jalen Walker, to where he can rush off the edge and he can play off ball, but I think the way people see him is more of an off ball guy than he is on ball. But he was recruited to Alabama as an edge rusher. It's still pretty new to the whole like zone coverage thing, but he's still pretty instinctful, pretty good at it. He's just going to continue to get better. And yeah, I think the Buccaneers could use an upgrade at linebacker, and Jahad Campbell is the best available there. Number 20. Name a better duo than Sean Payton and his Ohio State receivers. I can't think of many, and Emeka Mboka is just the next best one of them. I think probably one of the more safe receiver prospects of this class. I think no matter what, he's kind of a high floor, I don't want to say low ceiling guy, but I think he's pretty safely going to be able to get you about 1,200 yards a year. And really was outshined a bit based on just the insane talent that Ohio State has at receiver, whether it was Marvin Harrison a couple years ago or Jeremiah Smith this year. But Emeka Egbuka, don't get it twisted. He is a really talented receiver. And in that, the one thing that Denver seems to always be missing is another receiver. And I think Emeka Egbuka is going to be able to line up in that slot and just eat.
Well done. Well done. I like your second half of this mock draft. I don't know if I love the Tet McMillan to Eric or to the Seahawks. I think they have to go O line there, but it makes sense. He's too good of a player to like pass up on, so I understand that part of it. I also, man, I guess my really big gripe is I just want Josh Simmons to drop to 31. So like that's really the only issue I have with this draft. Other than that, I don't have any complaints.
I don't
Um,
see Josh Simmons making it past Houston.
I
I
that
think Houston needs off it, but
hey
that's as much as I'm
maybe
going to say because we got to save content for next week.
I was gonna say
Not to
maybe
spoil
next week
anything.
I have a certain team trading up to a certain pick to select Mr. Simmons, but we will see. Braden, that was a great uh, second half of your mock draft. This is my mock draft, my second half. I'm gonna make it quick because I know we're running low out of time. Uh, Niners, I'm going Shamar Stewart. Braden's had this Stewart going as high as number 8, and I've had um, him going up there as well. Niners just need D line help to help out Nicky Bosa. What better way than Shamar Stewart, who's a freak athlete, and I think just makes the Niners that much better. I have the Cowboys taking a receiver as well, but I have him going Tet McMillan. I think you pair him with CeeDee Lamb. I think it's going to be really, really helpful for Dak Prescott, and it's only going to give him more of a chance to succeed. And it's kind of, I don't want to say Dak's make it or break it year, but it's getting close. I mean, he's on the other side of 30. He's going to have to start like doing something in Dallas where it's like maybe not necessarily going to the NFC title game this year because I don't think the roster is good enough, but like getting really close, getting within a play or two. It just seems like sometimes they don't even win a playoff game they're supposed to win. But yeah, Tech McMillan to the Cowboys, I think it's a good fit. I have Malachi Starks going to the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins just need defense, like with this pick, super bad. I also see the O line pick here. That makes sense, but Malachi Starks is one of the best players in this draft. And I know when we talk positional value, safety is kind of a hit or miss pick. You don't really see safeties getting selected that high. I mean, there's examples of like Kyle Hamilton, who's a stud, but we all knew Hamilton was going to be a super high pick. We all knew that Jamal Adams, when he first came out in 2017, he was going to be a super high pick. I think Malachi Starks is in the air of those kind of players. And I think the Dolphins just need defense, especially with them losing Javon Holland to the Giants. I think this pick makes a lot of sense. We both have the same pick at 14, so I won't spend too much time. We both have Tyler Warren. You just got to give Richardson all the weapons he needs to see if he's worth like keeping on roster next year. So yeah, and Tyler Warren is really good at football. I have Jihad Campbell going to the Falcons. I think this is a perfect player for him. He's a hybrid player. Yes, you mentioned it. He's not super familiar with zone coverage yet, but I think you could have him be a zone player on first and second down, and then third down, just have him off the edge rushing the passer. I think he's going to be really good for any team that drafts him. So I have Jihad Campbell going to the Falcons. I had Jadon Barron. Sorry, I messed that pronunciation up, but him going to the Cardinals. This was the player that Braden originally wanted to go to the Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you said that, it made me think, and it made a lot of sense. Cardinals just need defensive help. I think they have the receivers pretty much figured out, and plus, I think there's good receivers in the second round of this draft, potentially even the third. So I think they just have to go with Barron, who I've seen mocked as high as number 8 or number 9, and they get him here at 16. I also have a defensive lineman going to the Bengals, but excuse me, I have Michael Williams. I've had Michael going as high as 8 to the Panthers, I believe. But in this scenario, he falls a little bit to number 17. Bengals need defense super bad, and you could argue Michael's probably the best defender left on the board. I do have the Seahawks taking an O lineman and Tyler Booker. I think Booker was one of the best like offensive linemen period last year in college football. But the fact that he's just a pure guard, I think is going to hurt his stock a little bit. But if you're the Seahawks, you just need talent on that line, and I think Tyler Booker's really good. This is where it gets interesting, and I forgot to add an asterisk because this is a trade I have at 19. I have Shador Sanders going 19 to the Steelers. I have them trading with the Bucks. You would ask why Steelers are only trading up 2 picks, but I think if he gets to the 20s, I think you run the risk of the Browns trading back up in the first round for him, the Raiders trading back up in the first round, the Giants trading back up in the first round. Like any one of these teams that really needs a quarterback, even I'm gonna throw this out there. The Rams. I don't know if the Rams are like sold on the Stafford like future. They don't know how many years he's gonna play. Um, at this point, they've waited long enough, in my opinion, for Rodgers, and Rodgers has made a decision. At this point, I wouldn't even sign Rodgers till after the draft. Um, I think Shador is that good. I could also see them taking Jackson Dart. We'll see how the draft actually plays out, but in this scenario, Shador ends up falling to them at 19, where they have to go trade up a couple picks. And then to close out my mock draft, I have Amari and Hampton. I had him going to the Bears last time. The Broncos need a running back. It was running back by committee last year. They just need a bell cow that they can give 15 to 20 carries to a game. And Amari and Hampton has been skyrocketing up draft boards the last few weeks, and I just think he's a perfect fit with the Broncos, considering they have pretty much all their other weapons filled out. They have the quarterback nailed. They have Cortland Sutton. They signed Evan Ingram from the Jags, and I think Amari and Hampton fills that offense and completes them. But Braden, do you have any thoughts on my second half of my mock draft?
Yeah, I do want to explain why I didn't go Jahdae Barron at the end of the day at 16. You look at the Cardinals defense, and you specifically look at that corner depth chart, and you think, man, that is really not good. They really need a corner. And then you look at Jahdae Barron, you think, man, that's perfect. He's a corner. They need a corner. But I feel like he's more of like a slot corner.
He's a nickel corner.
Yeah, nickel slot corner, which does not get drafted very high in the NFL anymore. And B, I feel like they already have a lot of guys who can play that hybrid nickel corner safety guy in like a Budda Baker, Jalen Thompson, even like Max Melton, I feel like is more of a slot guy. But I do still think you could play Jahdae Barron on the outside.
Right.
I don't think it'd go too bad, but I think his best fit is kind of in the nickel. And I don't love the fit, but I do think it makes sense,
Right.
which is why I had it originally. Outside of that, I mean, I have Malachi Starks going a little bit lower than you do, obviously. I do think he still makes it in the first round. He's a hell of an athlete, hell of a talent. Had a bit of an off year in 2024,
Mhm.
but I think his leadership and 2023 film is good enough to still get him in the first round. And yeah, you're right. The Dolphins do need a safety, but again, kind of like you touched on, I don't think safety gets drafted very high.
Unless it's the stud.
Drafting him unless he's a stud, which Malachi Starks is a stud. But I don't know. I really just don't know.
I think you could also make the case for Eman Ware to the Dolphins.
Yeah.
He's the wild card of this draft, in my opinion, because he's such a freak athlete. It's going to take the right team to take him in order for him to be good. Because he reminds me of, like, not quite to this extent, but a little bit of, like, Isaiah Simmons when he first came out. Like, Isaiah Simmons was this freak athlete that, oh man, he can play linebacker, he can play safety. He's, like, so fast, he's super aggressive. And then it almost ended up being they just could never find him in a predetermined role that he could thrive at. I think that's where Eman Ware could have some issues, but if in the right system, I think Eman Ware could thrive in any place he gets drafted.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that kind of concludes this episode. This episode kind of ran longer than we anticipated, but this usually happens. We usually say we're going to do a 30-minute episode, and we just end up yapping about the NFL. But yeah, that was our fourth, or was that fifth edition, and I didn't correct it? I think that was the fifth, and I didn't correct it.
I don't know.
Now that I say that.
However many you guys have seen, that's good enough. You guys can count at home.
Well, it was the fourth, so I did remember to change it last night.
All right.
But yeah, that kind of concludes this episode of the Sports Nerds. We kind of just previewed the draft as we're getting closer. We reacted to some of the NFL win totals that they have for this upcoming season. But for Braden Benkin, I'm Dawson Livingston, signing off.